A little bit of backstory to this question is if we go back 10 years ago, and at that point, as I said, I was not aware of any grants and bursaries, and so I applied assuming that I'm gonna get a loan. And when I got back a letter of assistance, I was so surprised and I was over the moon. I received like about $7,000-ish. I don't remember exactly how much it was to pay for all my classes. Innovation, automation, and constantly changing technologies are changing the ways in how we live and work. It also brings new challenges with it, but it brings new opportunities as well. And for those who would like to take advantage of those opportunities, one of the answers is to go and get and upgrade their skills, to get higher education. Whatever reason might be for the people to go back to school or take on additional classes, basically do anything to advance their careers, or maybe switch the careers completely. For any reason, there is always one big question that arises: how am I going to pay for all of this? Thankfully, I live in a country where government recognizes the need to support people like that and to give them a little bit more financial freedom to acquire new skills, to change their income situation, and to fit better in the new changing economy by getting back to schools. There are a few programs on federal as well as on provincial level which are available for many students from low income and middle income families class. This is the class, like the group of people I'm going to be talking about, because all the programs I will be discussing here are geared towards that class. So these are all grants that I know of that are available on government, federal level and on the provincial level. Specifically, I live in the province of Manitoba in Canada. I can't really talk about any other provinces. I don't have experiences with it, but I would think that many programs are very similar, with the exception of the province of Quebec and Nunavut, Northwestern Territories. They have their own programs to support their students. When me and my husband, when we first came to Canada as new immigrants, we had no idea how this system works. But I knew one thing, that I'm gonna go back to school. And that's what I did. We came in June 2009, and in September 2009 I went back to school. I started the first year of university here, and at that point all the immigration process ate all of our savings. We had really not that much money left over, so paying for school out of pocket was out of question, and I really wanted to get my education. So we decided that if it needs to be, I will take on some loans to get through the school, and that's what I did. I applied to the Manitoba Student Aid Program, and at that point, as I said, I was not aware of any grants and bursaries, and so I applied assuming that I'm gonna get a loan. And when I got back a letter of assistance, I was so surprised and I was over the moon. I received like about $7,000-ish. I don't remember exactly how much it was, to pay for all my classes. And at that time I took 5 classes each term, so absolutely full course load, and that amount of money was absolutely sufficient to pay for that school year. I didn't really have much money left over for textbooks, but knowing that I didn't have to take on any loans was just great relief. And yeah, that's what I did. I went back to school. I studied for that year, but then unfortunately I had to drop out of school for some reasons. And well, fast forward 7 years, I went back, but at that time I didn't anticipate that anyways. And so it was also a great feeling to know that even if I didn't go back to school, I don't have to pay that money back. Even though it's not the right attitude, I would think, to start the school with the intent of maybe like not finishing it and just give it a try on the cost of the government. But I certainly didn't have that intention. I wanted to finish it, but then life happens sometimes, and that happened in my case, and I had to drop out. Now that I'm back to school, I was curious if I would get the same amount of assistance as I did back in 2009. To my surprise, I received the full, almost full amount. There was some reduction for the previous incomes, but even with that reduction, it still paid for all my classes, for all my textbooks, and even I had money left over to pay for yearly parking pass, for some gas. So, how exactly do you apply to all of these programs? Because there are several you can get. It depends on your province of residence, and it's very simple. You actually just apply straight through your province's student aid program, and they will consider you automatically for everything that's available on the federal level as well. And the things I'm going to be talking about do apply not only to students who've been out of school for some time or who have kids and families. Some of the programs also do apply for the students who are regular students out of high school. It just depends on how big the family income is, and government is more than ready to support financially in some way those kids as well. So the biggest amount of grants, of course, is available to full-time students, but there are also programs for part-time students, and I will be discussing them briefly as well, because I had to use the part-time student grants this summer because I didn't take on the full course load. That's how I also know about them, that they're available, and I know them firsthand. The first one, and the biggest one I think, is Canada Student Grant for full-time students for low and middle income families. It's a student grant that's based on your family income. There's a table like this that does determine if you're eligible or not in general, and then you also have to have some assessed need. These program and all the others, I would say too, do apply not only to the undergrad schooling but also to graduate studies. So that's the first one and the easiest to explain because it just depends on your family income. By the way, at the end of the video I'm gonna show exactly how much I got for each semester, for each year. There is no secret in this because it's all information that you can easily Google, and the way how they assess what this assistance looks like will really be helpful to see. So the Canada Student Grant for part-time students also depends on your income, and it also puts a restriction on how long the program of study has to be. It has to be a minimum of 12 weeks of study that you can get a grant for. And the maximum amount you can get is $1,800, but it depends on many different variables. So the sure way to find out how much you qualify for is just to apply. But the money is available for part-time as well. As of August 1st, 2018, there was another grant invented that is supposed to help students with families and students with dependents, but more so for the students who have been out of high school, I should say, for more than 10 years to pay for the upgrade in their education. And that grant is called Skills Boost Top-Up Grant for Canada Student Grant for full-time students. And it's also available for part-time as well. So it has all the same requirements. You just have one more condition, that you have to be out of high school for more than 10 years. So you could receive up to $200 each month for each month of your studies, or up to $1,600 for your school year, which means 2 semesters. Also, there is a grant for students with dependents, and again, it depends on the income. You use the same income table. The only additional condition is that you have to have kids, of course, and children for which you are eligible to get any assistance, which is up to $200 a month per child for each child that is under the age of 12. And in my case, I have 4 kids. 2 of them this year are now over 12. So for this year studies, I only received this grant for 2 kids. And the amounts will be shown at the end of the video on that screenshot of my assistance. And again, the same condition apply for part-time students, with the exception that the amount of grant is smaller. The total grant available is $1,800 for the school year, and otherwise everything else is the same. You have to have kids under 12, and you have to have financial need, and your income has to be within limits of this income table that I showed you before, like this. So that's so much I can share about the federal grants that are available. And one more that I received was Manitoba Bursary. Yeah, so Manitoba Bursary is an upfront amount of up to $2,000 depending on your family income. It applies to low-income families only, and in my case I received almost $1,000 for each of the semesters that I studied except part-time. In the summer I received only half of that amount. That bursary also covers the situation if you have to commute I do commute to school every day, 2 hours worth of commute, like 1 hour each way, and that bursary is also meant to support people who commute to school every time. So all in all, if I count together every single semester for which I got funding so far, and that's not including the money that I got back 10 years ago, I don't count this at this point anymore because I had to retake many classes, but everything together was above $30,000, which is awesome. Like, I am so thankful for that opportunity to go back to school and not having to worry about money. I can't express my gratitude. And one very important point to keep in mind, I've learned it this year only, as I realized when I was doing our tax return, that any money that you have left over that does not go for your tuition, the amounts that you get directly deposited to your bank account, because how that happens, the government or student aid, they pay directly to school whatever amount you're owing, and anything that's left for this term, they transfer to your bank account. And that money that is not directly meant to pay for school, but you spend it on some other stuff, is taxable. So keep that in mind so that you don't get any surprises later. But otherwise, it's really helpful for us as students, as people wanting to change their careers, change their financial situation by improving education and so on. So with that in mind, I will talk to you next video. Bye.